Well, hello everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Transfer Talk podcast. Delighted to be back. My name is Pete Graves.
Peter's back. Back again.
Yes.
Peter's back. Tell
your
we're friends.
We're friends.
Peter's back. Peter's back. Peter's back. Repeat to fade.
Fantastic.
Hello, Peter.
Dharmesh, great to see you. How are
I don't
you?
recognise you.
I know, yeah, it's
real,
really
real.
me, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not AI.
Yeah.
It's PG.
Oh, we wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. The AI version of me is fantastic. It doesn't make any mistakes. Dharmesh, great to see you, mate. Hope you've been well. And delighted to welcome back to Transfer Talk as well, Tom Canton, big Arsenal fan, of course, and has been on the podcast before. Tom, great to see you, mate. You been all right?
Yeah, good. It's good. Obviously, we did it virtually last time, so it's nice to be in the flesh.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's great. It's great. And I remember last time we spoke, I was really worried because I thought Arsenal were going to sign Sandro Tonali. And
don't worry, we haven't.
No, I know. Yeah, fast forward, you've nicked an even better player from us in Bruno Guimaraes, and you're champions as well. So first of all, congratulations! First time I've seen you since you won the league.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like I played such a big role in cheering the win. But yeah, fantastic stuff.
And happy with Bruno?
Oh, delighted. I mean, what a signing. I think probably top 5 Premier League midfielders over the last few years, I think, and he will transform them. The idea of Rice and Bruno together, I mean, that's a scary thought if you're not an Arsenal player next season.
Yeah, he's a great signing. I'm saying it through gritted teeth. He's such a good player. And one of the things that a couple of I've been on holiday for about 4 weeks, and I was in Florida, and a couple of Arsenal fans, they had Arsenal tats and everything. They came up to me in the pool, and they're asking me about Bruno, and I was sort of like I wasn't really over it, so I was sort of crying. But luckily, the pool hid the fact that there was tears rolling down my cheeks. And what I said to them was, what he does so well is that he holds that ball slightly longer. So a lot of players, you see the midfielders, they get the ball and then they give it. Bruno holds it just a little bit longer. So what he does is he draws a couple of players in and then he releases it. So he's amazing at taking players out of the game. And it'd be a huge miss for Newcastle, but a great signing for Arsenal. And I'm saying it now. I think with him, you win the league again.
Do you feel like the £75 million was less than what Newcastle should have got?
No, I think it's about par.
Yeah,
I think it's about right fee wise. I think he's worth a lot more to Newcastle United. Obviously, when you look at it and you think they've got more money for Gordon and Tonali, really Bruno was more important. But he's older. He's coming towards the latter end of his career, and it's his last big move really. And look, the fans loved him, and I think that there'll still be a lot of hurt out there now. But I think ultimately, when he comes back, the vast majority of St James's Park. Remember, there's 2 different sets of fans for any football club. There's those online that are moaning and crying, and there's those in the stadium. I think
I was going to ask you that. Is he genuinely, do you think, going to get a good reception?
Yeah, I think fans, we've got to be very careful. And this to anyone listening and watching this, don't read too much into what you see online, because you see these big fan accounts. No disrespect to Tom, I know you've got one, but I know that you go to the games regularly. A lot of these fan accounts genuinely don't go to matches. All they do is sit in their bedrooms and moan about stuff.
I ask you this, right?
St James's Park,
the reason I ask you
50,000
this, right,
people.
there is going to be, when Isak comes back, it is going to be like universally, it's going to be pretty toxic.
Absolutely.
What I'm going to say about Bruno Guimaraes is you're saying now that he'll get a good reception.
I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen.
Go on, man.
So this is what's going to happen. They're going to read the team sheet out, and when they see his name, there'll be a round of applause. When he comes out, there'll be a round of applause. First time he gets the ball, everyone will boo, because it's a thing. We've done that always. Even the favourite players that come back. Les Ferdinand coming back. Everyone cheered, and then first time we got the ball, everyone booed. It's banter. It's St James's Park banter that only the fans that go understand. But he will get cheered. And what? Other people make the thing of say, oh, he got booed. No, he'll get applauded, and the fans respect what he did. But they will boo him the first time he gets the ball, because that's the banter within the stadium.
Pete, the reason I'm asking, it's good, both of you, because you're both match-going fans at Arsenal and Newcastle. The reason I'm asking is the difference in how Isak and Bruno Guimaraes left.
Yeah,
right?
Poles apart.
Yeah, poles apart. I agree. Right. So Isak I'm not training, I'm not playing, I want this move.
Yeah, refused to train, refused
Bruno
to play.
Guimaraes it's been painted, he's been very respectful.
Yep.
He turns up at La Manga.
Yep.
But the fact is, he's employed a representative that's effectively engineered this move to Arsenal.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly what's going on, but publicly, I will respect everything that Newcastle asked me to do, that I'm contractually asked to do.
Yes.
In a way, you actually knew what was happening with Isak. It's like, he ain't going to play for us again. He doesn't want to play for us.
Refusing to play.
It was,
yeah.
what I'm saying is, pardon the pun, it was pretty black and white with Isak. Whereas here, it's almost like we know Bruno Guimaraes wants to go to Arsenal.
Yeah.
We know that he's, with his representatives, he's not an innocent party in that part of it.
No.
He's engineering that move, but he still wants that. I still want to be loved by the Newcastle United fans. Listen, I don't want any flack for this, and I may get flack for saying this, but what I'm saying is, from a Newcastle United fan perspective, I'm just asking the question from an outsider. This is how it looks like to me, how this move came about.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's one thing saying, oh, he was respectful, and it said it in the statement, all of that. But on the flip side, we've got to accept as well that
he's a footballer.
From before the World Cup, there was talk about Bruno Guimaraes going to Arsenal and wanting to go to Arsenal. Why was that? Because he had a representative who he is working with. He's not like, I didn't know that he was trying to engineer this, but he knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to boo him now, aren't you?
I'm going to boo him as soon as yeah. I'll be outside. I'll be waiting for the bus. Let's move on. And I'm sure we're going to have to come back to that anyway. And that is where we're going to start with Arsenal, as we've already started. But on Bruno, Tom, I mean, there's talk about him playing as a 6 there, although he said he likes to play as an 8. I see him more as a box to box. Where does he fit in with Arsenal? Will he play just alongside Rice in front of the back four?
Yeah, I think that's probably the plan. I think when you look back at the end of last season, Myles Lewis-Skelly broke into the midfield playing that left 8 role. Martin Zubimendi's form had really fallen off a cliff. In the first half of the season, I thought he was nailed on to be a potential player of the season candidate, but he massively trailed off. And I think that was to do with, first year introduction into the Premier League from La Liga, playing a lot more games, a much more intense style of play under Mikel Arteta as well. And I think that he faded after being asked to play so many minutes in that first half of the season. And so Rice started to move into the 6 position and Myles became that left 8, and he earns that spot in the Champions League final as well. I thought played really well against PSG as well, up against Vitinha and João Neves. And now you're looking at Bruno coming in, you're thinking, well, the Arsenal midfield is most likely to be on, in a best case scenario, Declan Rice is that 6, Bruno Guimaraes is the 8, and then Odegaard Orez is slightly ahead of him. But I think Bruno was just going to add so much more passing quality, progression to that Arsenal midfield and connect that midfield to the front 3 a lot more efficiently than what we got from last. I mean, you think about Rice, not a goal-scoring midfielder while he was really playing there. Certainly brilliant with set pieces and deliveries, but Bruno will add that goal threat that I think has been missing from the Arsenal midfield.
He's got set pieces as well. He can take a great corner. He scored direct from one last season as well.
Also, you have that option when he'll be able to rest Rice a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Bruno's there, but also against certain opposition, Rice will be given a little bit of license sometimes to go further forward than maybe he was allowed to do.
I definitely see
season.
Bruno more effective when he's going forward. I don't see him as a tough tackling sort of 6 who sits there like a Casemiro type. Like he's more, he unlocks the door. He's got that little bit of trickery. He's just so good. But no, I think he's honestly, I don't think you can handpick a better signing for Arsenal. I think he's, like you say, Declan Rice. It's funny sliding doors moments, isn't it? I got told this by someone very high up at Newcastle that Declan Rice obviously signed for Arsenal and he was always wanting to sign for Arsenal. But I know that Eddie Howe made a real big play for Declan Rice as well, and I know that Declan considered it because he was, and I just think the sliding doors of, like, I'm not going to talk too much, we're talking about Arsenal, but Declan Rice stopped and considered Newcastle, ended up going to Arsenal. Bruno's now gone to Arsenal. Elliot Anderson Sandro Tonali, like all the best midfielders in the Premier League could have been playing in black and white, but they're not. They're everywhere else but Newcastle United. But no, listen, I mean, the other big news from Arsenal, which we've only just learned, really, is this news on Myles Lewis-Skelly. Tom, what are you hearing there?
Yeah, so report with my colleague, our Chelsea reporter at Football.London, Bobby Vincent, that Chelsea are understood to have been approached about a potential transfer for Myles Lewis-Skelly, which, you know, from a personal point of view, looking at it from an opinion perspective, I would be so pained to see that deal happen. And it's worth pointing out that it's not yet confirmed whether or not Chelsea will potentially approach Arsenal in return about a transfer. It's just, I think that the idea of losing a player of such talent, of the age bracket that he is, having started that Champions League final, as I mentioned, if they get, as you know, me and Dharmesh have used the term pure profit a lot, and Arsenal would get a lot of financial benefit if they were to sell him. But it just, I think it would really pain the Arsenal fan base to see, and especially to Chelsea, of all clubs as well.
I mean, Manchester United have been reportedly interested in Myles Lewis-Skelly as well. Sometimes you've got to find out which way it's gone.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, you use the word offered.
Yeah.
And that would pain Arsenal fans more than anything else, rather than it being an interest solely from Chelsea and or Manchester United. But if you look at last season, that he had a breakthrough season the season before, and we were expecting Myles Lewis-Skelly to really push on. But in the left-back area, I mean, it looks full for him. It doesn't look like there's a way back. He's probably third choice there, isn't he? Would you say Calafiori and Nkapie would probably get in ahead of him? And then suddenly, towards the end of the season, when you mentioned Zubimendi, maybe because of tiredness, maybe because too many games, etc., Myles Lewis-Skelly gets that opportunity in midfield where he has played some of his youth career anyway, so he's not unused to that position. And suddenly everyone thought, well, there's no way in hell Arsenal are going to allow someone like Myles Lewis-Skelly to go, because now looks like he could become a fixture in that midfield. Now they go out and buy Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle United, and then you think again, well, where is he in the pecking order now at left back and in central midfield? How many games is he going to get? So as much as you might think being offered to other clubs, what's going through Lewis-Skelly's mind now? Because towards the end of the season, he might have thought, I think I can turn this around now, having had such limited game time throughout the rest of the season, goes into pre-season, plays the majority of pre-season with Arsenal, and then suddenly sees someone like Bruno Guimaraes come in for £75 million. And he's not coming in to be a squad player. He's coming in to go into that team. Where does Lewis-Skelly fit in? I know he's only 19 years of age, and Mikel Arteta, in every news conference when he's asked about Lewis-Skelly, will always say he's young. If you think about players when they develop, he's almost saying Lewis-Skelly was ahead of schedule. So we shouldn't be judging it almost on that season that he broke through, but more on when you expect a player of his age to break through. But once you've had that breakthrough season, naturally you're going to get impatient. He got into the England squad, and because of what happened last season, he didn't get in the England squad for the World Cup. He must have thought, I am nailed on to get in if I stay fit, but he wasn't getting any game time.
Yeah, I think that also you look at what Mikel said in one of his press conferences. I'm not sure if you were in the one that he was at, where he talked about he didn't necessarily hear the guidance at the start of the season when Nkapie was coming in. He didn't necessarily hear the guidance that he wanted to give him, and he wasn't maybe as receptacle to it, knowing that he was going to be, as you say, third choice left back. And it took a bit of time. And he was actually training, I think, towards the start of the year in January in the midfield role, despite we didn't actually see him in that midfield role until, March, April, May time. So I think that with Bruno coming in, I'm curious to see how he responds now to this. Will we see that transfer situation go further? Because the idea of Man United, as Miguel Delaney previously reported, that interest in Manchester United there, and now this report, of course, that we've got with myself and Bobby Vincent, that Chelsea have been approached regarding Myles Lewis-Skelly, it just seems a bit messy, and I really felt he was nailed on to be a key player for Arsenal this season.
It surprises me with Lewis-Skelly, and we talked previously about Nwaneri as well. Like you look at from an outside looking in, like two of the best young sort of up and coming players in the Premier League, and now both linked with moves away from the club. It almost, I mean, is that part and parcel of being the champions, that almost you can't afford to blood the youngsters? You've got to buy top quality.
Well, I think you look at Manchester City, who sold Cole Palmer to Chelsea, He looked at his situation there and thought, I'm incredibly talented and I believe in the quality that I have and that I could play at a top-level club like a City and then, of course, a Chelsea. And it was obvious that he wasn't going to get the regular minutes that he wanted and he believed he deserved at City, and so decided to make that switch to Chelsea, and where he's done exceptionally well and grown into the player and the profile that we all appreciate as one of the best attacking midfield talents in the Premier League. Does Ethan Nwaneri, does Myles Lewis-Skelly look at that situation and think, I might need to follow a similar pathway to accentuate my career to another level?
Yeah. I think, look, Arsenal probably in an ideal world would not want Myles Lewis-Skelly to go because they know what he represents, right? However, because of the game time that he's lacking now, and potentially he will be lacking next season, you've also got to look at it from his perspective as well. He wants to get back in the England squad. How is he going to do that if he stays at Arsenal with all of those players in front of him? And I just wonder now whether Arsenal can come up with a deal, whether it can be a loan deal or something, whether he can go out and get first team action and then return to Arsenal when he's at that age where Mikel Arteta would normally say this is when you would start breaking in to the first team. The only problem I would say with that is last summer, Arsenal spent big and they kept nearly their entire squad together. And there's always this narrative going into this summer, they are going to go big again and they want to go big again, but it isn't going to be without any sales. There are going to have to be sales if Arsenal really want to go big in this window. We've heard about, Gabriel Jesus potentially leaving. We've already seen Trossard leaving, which I was pretty surprised about. I would have thought that he potentially would have stayed, or whether they can see, is there another departure in there in Martinelli? There's question marks about him. Now you hear about Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri, and Tom mentioned it at the top, it is pure profit.
Yeah.
If you sell these players. So are Arsenal looking at it in that way, as much as it would disappoint the Arsenal fans who see these players coming up through the ranks, and that's exactly what they want to attach themselves to.
Right, I've said it before on this podcast. It's a stupid rule. This selling the young players. It's pure profit. I just think tempting clubs into selling their homegrown players is ridiculous. And I've said for a long time, something I think needs to be looked at. But talking about Martinelli, that's an interesting one. And Vinicius Jr. This whole story came about going back to the two Arsenal fans in the swimming pool in Orlando. They were like, we're getting Vinicius Jr. Like, oh no, I was like, here's Dharmesh Sheth's number for you. I mean, did they come close, Tom, to getting him?
It was a really interesting saga, this one, because I think from the outside in, when you look at how it's now transpired, it looks like, well, Vinicius Jr. has been able to use Arsenal's interest to get a better deal at Real Madrid. The reality is that isn't really how it played out. It was a case where Vinicius Jr. felt like, from my understanding, that he deserved to be on terms closer to that of Kylian Mbappe, and that those figures just simply weren't what Real Madrid at that point were willing to offer. And it seems that they haven't actually gone to that level, and there's been something of a compromise met between the player and Real Madrid. And Arsenal saw this, having, in my view, missed out on Morgan Rogers, a really key target for them at the start of the window, who was going for figures way beyond what they were willing to pay. They saw the opportunity with a top-level player, potentially top 5 player in the world, available if they can get him, and Real Madrid don't come to the figures that he's looking for. And for a long time, it felt like it was going to be that. And then Arsenal's interest and willingness to financially go that level to get a deal done saw a change in position from Real Madrid that was not expected. It happened in a space of days. Vini Jr. returning to Real Madrid's training camp to start training, talks with the club, and within days, they had found a compromise. And it's left Arsenal in a really difficult situation regarding what they do next.
Two things I'd say, Pete. First of all, Vinicius Jr., as Tom said, they were definitely interested. And they were positioning themselves to be in a position where they could do that deal. And everyone said, how can they afford this financially? They would have been able to do a deal had it come to it. And people would then say, oh, but what about the knock-on effect on other players who will say, well, Vinicius Jr. is on that much, I want to be on this much. That's where Mikel Arteta and the man management comes in, because he can go up to him and say, this is Vinicius Jr., this is an X-factor player, so we just need to accept sometimes that this is the wage of this player, this is the wage of you. Because as much as, for example, I'm not saying they would have, Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, widely regarded as two of the highest paid players at Arsenal. Yeah. And people would say, well, what would they say to the Arsenal board if Vinicius Jr. came on money that was much more than them? Well, there are other players in the Arsenal squad who are in the position that Rice and Saka would have been in with Vinicius Jr., but with Rice and Saka. Because they would say, well, Rice and Saka are on this much. Why are we not on this much money? That's because they see Rice and Saka as their game changers. Yeah. And Arsenal want to go to that next level. They see the X factor player in Vinicius Jr. and they feel that a player like that can take them to that next level. And then the rewards will come when you're more successful. That was how it would be sold. And just picking up on what Tom said there about missing out on Morgan Rogers, I wouldn't phrase it quite like that. I know what you're saying. They didn't get him.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to go to 117 million pounds. The one way you could say they missed out on him is if they'd done that deal
earlier,
right at the start of the window, because it was clear Rodgers, I think, wanted to go to Arsenal right at the start. But you don't know what's going to happen in a transfer window. And negotiations are always going to be right. If Villa say 80, 85 million, Arsenal are always going to say, well, we're not going to pay that much. But then suddenly the likes of Mateus Fernandes, Sandro Tonali, Elliot Anderson completely distort the market. And Aston Villa are well within their rights to say, Elliot Anderson is 116 million. Morgan Rogers is probably worth a little bit more than 116 million. So that's where the pricing is going to start. And that's when Arsenal were like, no, we're not going anywhere near that price.
No. You said, Tom, there, it leaves us wondering where we go next. So Vinicius Jr. is obviously staying at Real Madrid. Dharmesh has just mentioned a boatload of players, including Morgan Rogers, who've gone elsewhere. There's some talk about Barcola, but it looks like that it could be Liverpool, or you may think differently. Maybe Barcola's an option for Arsenal. Where else is the potential to strengthen on that wing, or do you just stick with Martinelli?
Well, this is the thing. I think there are three pathways that Arsenal have ultimately got with this. You've got the pathway of signing a top player and paying huge money. And there's only really two options. One of them isn't really a left-sided player, which is Julian Alvarez. Yeah. And the other one that Arsenal made an inquiry about earlier in the window, to my understanding, but were knocked back heavily, is Kenan Yildiz at Juventus. Yeah. And those two would cost well over £100 million. The other pathway is to sign a player below that level, but they still feel is an improvement on what they already have. And I'd put players like Nico Williams at Athletic Club potentially into that category. I think we've heard talk about even Marcus Rashford, Ilian Ndiaye at Everton as well has been talked about. And then the third option is to stick and twist later. And I lean towards that avenue if the first one is not doable, because I think it is way better to not spend on a player that you don't think is the right caliber than go and spend money on a player that doesn't necessarily fulfill what you're looking for from a transfer.
Tom, you watch them every week. You watch them all in pre-season. It was Trossard and Martinelli on that left side last season. It's now Martinelli and Tzolis. Is that an improvement on what they had last season?
The honest answer is we don't really know, because we don't really know what Christos Tzolis is going to do. I think that the early answer would be not really at this point in time. Leandro Trossard was a clutch player. He turned up in huge moments. He effectively won them the league with that goal at West Ham United. He only scored 6 Premier League goals last season. Do I think Christos Tzolis will score more than 6 Premier League goals next season? I think he could. I think he's already potentially, shouldered himself into that starting left wing position with how ready he looks. He'd already started pre-season with Club Brugge before he moved in, so he's sharper. And he's got 4 goal contributions in the 4 pre-season friendlies that Arsenal have played. 1 goal and 3 assists. MK Don's assist, Girona, goal, Betis, assist from a corner, which Nicolas Jovo will absolutely love. And then, of course, he got another assist for Ethan Nwaneri the other day. So I think that Arsenal will, in my opinion, have failed in their mission to upgrade the left-hand side in this window. But despite failing, if that was what they wanted to do, it might end up being the right decision rather than making the mistake of getting a player for the sake of getting a player.
Yeah. Look, I think Martinelli and Tzolis are good options to have. If you don't roll the dice with another incoming. And looking further back, Doms, I mean, there's a few injury issues that they're currently having to deal with. Julian Timber it's been injury after injury for him. William Saliba struggling at the moment. There was a link with Christian Romero at Spurs, although that looks like Atletico Atletico Madrid. I mean, that could never happen. Surely we're not going to be Sol Campbell all over again, are we?
Well, it's not strictly Sol Campbell, is it? Because this would be the first transfer.
Captain.
Well, no, this would be the first transfer for money between Spurs and Arsenal since Pat Jennings. If it had happened, because
right?
Sol Campbell's a free agent, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he actually wasn't. He didn't move from Spurs to Arsenal. He left Spurs at the end of his contract, and then he joined Arsenal. I know it's semantics, but actual clubs dealing with each other, because Arsenal didn't have to deal with Spurs to get Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
They just waited till his contract ended up and said, "We'll have you." But the Romero one, I mean, I think they looked at it. I just don't think Tottenham Hotspur would be doing any kind of business on that front with regard to Arsenal. And it does look like it is going to be Atletico Madrid. It does look like a good fit as well.
Yeah.
Romero and Atletico Madrid.
Oh, yeah.
It does seem to fit.
He's got Atletico written all over
Yeah,
him.
he has. He has.
Yeah.
And I think Manchester United might even been sniffing around Romero potentially, but whether that went anything past just looking at him or not, I don't know. And, you know, people put 2 and 2 together. Martinez and Romero with a centre-back partnership for Argentina. Could they do it at club level? But it looks like it is going to be Atletico Madrid that Romero is going to. Consa is the other one that won't go away, but there's still a gap in valuation. That's still the case, I think. And it's just interesting what Arsenal are going to do it's less than 3 weeks to go in this window now.
Yeah.
And if we go back, myself and Tom were both in Budapest, and after the Champions League final, it was quite bullish, Mikel Arteta, because he was already looking ahead to the season after. Quickly and efficiently is how he wanted his transfer business done. That, for whatever reason, you can bring into the fact that there's a World Cup, but it hasn't really happened for Arsenal. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans are quite worried, but you've also got to remember they've got a title-winning squad, and they're adding to that title-winning squad. They haven't added exactly who they wanted yet, but you could argue overall, is it in better shape than it has been the previous season when you look at the fact that Bruno Guimaraes and Christos Tzolis have joined?
Are you worried about the defensive reinforcements? Do they need another body in there?
Yeah, I think actually you look at that area, I think it's a bigger priority than the left-sided attack right now. Because at the moment, you've got Arsenal have got 4 options for the left wing. You've got Tzolis, you've got Martinelli, you've also got Eze who can play there, and even Noni Madueke has played there. So they're not short on the left-hand side of their attack. There's a question about the level of quality for next season. But if you look with William Saliba absent, that leaves the Mosquera playing right-sided centre-half, and then no one besides 16-year-old Marley Salmon as a potential replacement. And then you've got Ben White, who can play centre-half, but Jurriën Timber is out for what, I asked Mikel Arteta the other day, and he said he's going to be missing for weeks still. So there is that idea that if they are going to sign a player, for me, the priority has to be that right-side defence. Ezri Konsa is a good player. I don't think he had an amazing World Cup. I think there were some question marks about England defensively at times, and I think he was part of that. But the idea of paying £60 million for, a soon-to-be 29-year-old, if not already, I think is a lot of money. And I think I'd rather, when I look at Ousmane Diomande, who went to Nottingham Forest, I looked at that as a 22-year-old right-side defender and thought, well, why aren't Arsenal in for him as well? Because for me, but I think there's been suggestions about maybe Diomande and Gyökeres aren't the best of pals from their sporting days, supposedly. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
You dropped that bomber about Lewis-Skelly potentially leaving. There's been talk. You mentioned it, Dharmesh. Gabriel Jesus, we've just been talking about Martinelli, Nwaneri, we've mentioned Nelson's another one. We've already seen Kivior, Trossard, Norgard go. Can you say, are you predicting a fair few more departures as well, mate, before the window closes next 3 weeks?
Yeah, but it always seems with Arsenal that the departures in those sense for the surplus players happen right at the end of the window. We saw it last time on deadline day with Fabio Vieira and Reece Nelson both leaving on loan. Sambi Lokonga went on deadline day as well.
Vieira's still there, isn't he?
Vieira is still there. And there are discussions going with Hamburg. The loan included a £17 million option, which they didn't take up, even though they agreed it, because they felt even though at the time they agreed it, they knew they would have no chance of paying that amount of money. And they are in talks to try and reduce that figure, but Arsenal feel after a good season in the Bundesliga that he is worthy of a higher fee. Gabriel Jesus could be off to Napoli this summer. They've now agreed, we believe, a deal with Fenerbahce for Romelu Lukaku to go there. So that opens the door for them to move. But his wages, Gabriel Jesus, way over 200 grand a week. very difficult for Arsenal to sell a player on that amount who's not necessarily got the calibre and the stock that he once had. And Reece Nelson, West Ham United, as Dharmesh, you reported, that we are seeing them offer a loan for a player with 1 year left on his deal. And that shows you everything about the value that players got.
Yeah, that's the classic loan with 1 year left. Brilliant, guys. Look, we've covered Arsenal nicely there. I want to move on to another Premier League giant who are targeting wingers and defenders, and that is Liverpool. Yesterday, there was also some breaking news surrounding Liverpool as well with regards to an incoming and potentially new investment as well, Dharmesh. This is interesting because a consortium involving Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is closing on a deal to buy roughly 1/3 of a stake in Liverpool. He's the third richest man in the world, slightly behind you, Doms, and, just one ahead of Tom. He's worth £207 billion. I was talking about this on Sky Sports News this morning because Liverpool fans are getting really excited, which always makes me chuckle because I'm a Newcastle fan. We've got the richest owners in the world, but can't spend any money. So should Liverpool fans, does it make any difference?
I mean, you should know better than most.
Yeah.
Just because an owner or investment comes in, it doesn't necessarily mean that
they can spend any
next
money.
Week they're going to try and sign Ousmane Dembele or Kylian Mbappe for hundreds of millions of pounds.
Because they're not allowed.
No, they can afford to with that investment, but they can't because we know about the financial rules that are in place.
Yes.
Now, when you have investment like this, I suppose the knock-on effect can be to try and increase your revenue in certain ways.
Yes.
Using the people that you've got who had brought the investment in. So they've got to do it organically, like every other club will have to. You will know more than most. I mean, you were excited, very excited. Like, you not usually get that excited, but you were very, very excited when they took over. The Saudis took over at Newcastle, and you were thinking, right, well, who's next? Is it Ronaldo? Are they going to go for Messi? Go on, could just put a bid in. And now look, you've just sorry.
I know, yeah. No, it's just so true. So Aston Villa have got very wealthy owners. They've just sold three of their best players as well.
They've got to comply with not only Premier League PSR rules, but also the UEFA
score cost ratio now, isn't it?
SCR as well.
Yeah.
So there's so many rules to adhere to financially that it is not as simple as, we've got brilliant investment here. High profile investment, let's just go and spend loads of money. It doesn't work that way.
No.
In fairness to Liverpool, I know everyone always says last summer £446 million or wherever it was that they spent. We should actually note that they recouped a hell of a lot of money.
They did so
as well.
Yeah.
So almost half of that was recouped, which is why I think they went into this summer's transfer window still being able to be in a position to be able to spend another 250 million pounds. And who knows, I'm sure we might come to it in a bit, but Barcola, it's not an accident that they're looking at him.
Yeah.
They know how much he's going to cost.
Liverpool fans are stressed, though, aren't they? I mean, I was just looking online, and
is this by the pool again?
There's a few Liverpool fans.
All these fans swimming over.
I was holding court in the corner. Next, but no, I mean, look, you see online, even this. So they brought in Ronald Araujo from Barcelona. He can play centre back and right back. We expect he'll slot in at centre back alongside Virgil van Dijk. But some of the fans were like, "Oh, I can't believe we've signed this guy." I was looking online. There seems to be quite a lot of negativity around the club at the moment. I mean, what do you make of that one, Araujo?
Yeah, I saw a lot of Barcelona reaction to it, but not in a way that Liverpool would be pleased about, because it seemed that the Barcelona side of things was that they were quite pleased that Araujo had moved on. I'd spoken to a couple of friends of mine who are of a Barcelona persuasion, and they really felt that he was a player that 2-3 seasons ago was considered among the best centre-halves of his age bracket in the world. And there's been a number of moments, red cards in big games, mistakes at the back, that have just seen his stock fallen off completely. And when you've got players like Kabasi coming through, at Barcelona, it's now incredibly difficult for him. This is a really good opportunity, though, because you look at what the potential opportunity there is for him at a club like Liverpool, where you can make your name and really become a hero so quickly. And especially when Liverpool looks so frail with the options that they've got there, that he could completely reconfigure how he is viewed as a player and remove that kind of mistake that he'd made in the past at Barca. And I think that if he does do that, then there's no better club, I think, than Liverpool to build your reputation at as a hero at the back.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the sort of lack of numbers at the back there, Tom, and he's right, Doms. I mean, so Konate's gone, Robertson's gone on a free as well. You've got Jeremy Jacquet is back, but he hasn't played a game since February, right? Then you've got Connor Bradley's got a bad injury. Giovanni Leone injured as well. Obviously, Araujo comes in, but you would think there's quite a lot of work to do for Andoni Iraola between now and the window shutting in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about defensive reinforcements, you've also got to remember that these injured players who some of them they've spent big money on and who they feel could be the future of Liverpool are at some point this season going to be fit and available to play. So they've got to make a decision. It's quite a clever deal, this one, because it's an option. I'm told it's not an obligation to buy at all. So it can be viewed as a short-term fix for Liverpool with the potential of it becoming a permanent deal. So I think it's a clever deal that they've done there, while these other players who have been carrying injuries, Leone was so unfortunate right at the start of last season when he got that ACL. He'll be back soonish, you would think. Jacquet arrived, discomfort in his shoulder after that bad shoulder injury, but he will be back sooner rather than later as well. So do you go into the market and try and spend big money on a permanent signing in defence, or do you do what Liverpool have just done, which is probably the right decision? Also, given that Virgil van Dijk, not getting any younger, and probably is into the final year of his contract now, right? The succession planning has already been made with the likes of Jacquet and Leone there. Okay. So let's see what they'll hope that Araujo will perform well for him to be a permanent fixture.
And hope they don't get any more injuries. A couple more injuries could be
further up the pitch. Clearly, they are after a left-sided, a winger.
Yeah, they got to replace Salah.
I mean, they have to replace Salah. That not only replace him positionally, but also stature-wise as well. Because I think Munoz has come in, but sorry to bring Munoz up again.
Hey, I've just forgotten about Munoz. He looked decent the other day as well. Munoz.
But stature-wise, someone like a Barcola is, even though he's not necessarily the same position as Salah, but stature and status-wise would be the player that they'd want to bring in.
145 million, Barcola, they're saying. Yeah, you're shaking your head, Tom.
Yeah, it's silly money.
Yeah.
Like, he is not worth anything close to that, in my opinion. Like, Arsenal were considered a potential candidate to sign Barcola this summer. And after missing out on Vinicius Jr. and Morgan Rodri, missing out, I know we had a thing about that earlier, but the fact that Arsenal have missed those potential signings as options for a variety of reasons, that Barcola was considered as an alternative. But very similarly to Morgan Rogers, they have a valuation, Arsenal, for a player, and the evaluation that PSG have goes way beyond what Arsenal would have been considering. But for Liverpool, there's more needs must about this, and there's a greater level of need than Arsenal perhaps have to move, and so they therefore may pay more. But the debates that are had amongst, from the Arsenal perspective, where Barcola sits, I don't think he's necessarily a huge upgrade on, say, a Gabriel Martinelli on Arsenal's left-hand side. I think that he has a lot of the similar kind of areas of development that Martinelli does, which is his final decision in the final third and his execution of his clinical finishing and his passing as well. He does get a fair few goals and scores goals for PSG, but they do dominate, of course, Liga. They do dominate a lot of the Champions League games they play as well. And I think that when you consider the fact that his XG numbers, especially in the Champions League, are far below, like in terms of the goals that he scores compared to his XG, that raises red flags for me if you want to sign a clinical goal scorer in a way.
I think PSG are positioning themselves to get the most money for Barcola. They will always say at the start of a window, he's not for sale, he's part of our plans. And yet on the flip side, he's got 2 years left on his contract and he's not signing a new deal. And if you add to that what happened last season in the biggest games last season, Liga, we expect PSG to win the league. He was playing a lot of games in Liga. Quarterfinals of the Champions League against Liverpool. Semi-finals of the Champions League against Bayern Munich. The final itself against Arsenal in Budapest. Luis Enrique said Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Desiree Doué. And it was Barcola who was the one who missed out, who had come off the bench. But the way that they're pricing it is, well, he's a back-to-back Champions League winner. He's part of the French World Cup squad as well, and performed. They could say he performed really well at the World Cup. So putting that £145 million price tag on him is just an initial starting point, because what PSG are doing in the background is signing Magnus Akliouche to strengthen their forward line, signing Mika Götze from Ajax. Saw some footage of him this morning as well. Goodness me. Sells more dummies than Mothercare. There's one for you. It's an old one, that, isn't it? To sort of bring it back.
I like it.
Yeah. So they're strengthening it that much. He's going to fall further down the pecking order, which would, you would think, relax the starting price for someone like him.
Yeah, but I'm with Tom. It seems like an awful lot of money. And after Liverpool spent massive on Isak last summer, which didn't work out. Ekitike looked like a player, but then got an injury. Wirtz was a slow burner that got better. If they're going to spend that money, they've got to get it right.
Darwin Nunez as well didn't work out. Huge money on him.
Isak's a great story still for me, and I just fascinated to see whether he does become a good player. But again in pre-season, I think Liverpool fans are worried, aren't they, about what they've seen from Isak in pre-season with regards to his movement and everything else, which obviously I'm absolutely devastated about. Let's just on Salah. On Salah, Trabzonspor. Anyone surprised?
Yes.
It's like Trabzonspor.
Yeah.
Listen to our Trabzonspor watchers. Fantastic football club. You've clearly got finances there as well, and I'm sure Salah will be a brilliant signing for you. And good luck to him. But I was surprised no Premier League clubs or anyone.
Well, I was surprised Turkey first of all, and if he ends up going to Turkey, not to Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, or Besiktas, the so-called big three. So they're the fourth team in Turkey, really. But significantly, they are the last team outside of those three to win the Turkish league.
Right.
Having said that, he's not in the Champions League, so it is an interesting move. They've shown their ambition, Trabzonspor, by signing him. I'm sure in talks, Mohamed Salah would have wanted to get the reciprocal ambition from the club by saying, you've shown ambition signing me, I've shown ambition coming to you, now you need to follow this up.
Yeah.
Who else is coming?
Who's coming
to the club? It was interesting. We interviewed a Turkish TV presenter when the Salah deal was going through. She was telling us that, you mentioned him before, that Darwin Nunez was a player that they were really, really interested in and that they were hopeful of signing. So reuniting Salah and Darwin Nunez in Turkey.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be again, good luck to Mo Salah. He's been a fantastic servant in the Premier League, and I was surprised it was Trabzonspor, but let's see if they can win the Turkish league with Salah running down the wing. Let's just talk about Spain very quickly now, because there's lots of talk in Spain, and it's deals that reflect directly on the Premier League. We've seen record transfers, plenty of big stories flying around involving, like, say, La Liga in English football. Real Madrid, record transfer. They've signed 19-year-old Yan Diomande from RB Leipzig, a fee worth up to £120 million. Makes him the most expensive African player ever. Diomande, someone we talked about a lot on this podcast. He linked again with clubs in the Premier League, but he's ended up at Real Madrid. A lot of pressure at that price tag. Is he good enough?
19 years old. I've not seen enough of him, but from what I have seen, he seems like he's got a lot of potential. Is it £120 million potential? I mean, that is huge pressure on a player. Not only the price tag, but the club you've gone to. There's no hiding place at Real Madrid. You've got to go there and perform straight away. And I think it's going to be really interesting, the dynamic at Real Madrid now that Vinicius Jr has stayed.
Yeah.
To have a front three potentially, because I think Rodrigo's still injured. He's recovering from an ACL injury. So it could be Vinicius, Mbappe and Yan Diomande. That's not a bad
Galacticos
front three, is it?
Yeah. That's, like you say, with Vinicius Jr staying, That is it's a frightening front three, that, isn't it?
It is. The Rodrigo's one's really interesting as well, because we talked about Arsenal sticking. Sorry to bring it back to Arsenal again, but it's interesting that stick and twisting, because maybe Rodrigo, if he recovers, can't get back into the Real Madrid squad, becomes a factor in the January transfer window later on for a club like Arsenal or Liverpool if they don't get Barcola later on. But from that Real Madrid perspective, you're looking at that. I mean, it's all, and with Jose Mourinho coming in as well, and the fanfare around that and what they're going to. Bernardo Silva is there. Konate's obviously gone there too. They've really kind of reshaped the back line of it as well. They've kept some key players like Vinicius Jr. They've allowed Mastantuono to go on loan to Fiorentina, I believe. So Jan Diomande coming in and filling that slot. But you look at the depth of quality that they've got, and you look at the World Cup that Kylian Mbappe had. I do still feel as though that there's a little conflict between Diomande, Mbappe and Vini Jr, because I think they all like, as a preference, to occupy kind of a left half space. And so Diomande has played on the right for Leipzig, but I think in interviews has spoken about how his preference is on the left-hand side. Vini Jr.'s preference is the left. Mbappe, we felt, might, if Vini Jr. left, move to the left with maybe Bellingham playing more of an advanced central role. So again, it's not balanced, but it is exciting, and I guess that's all you want when you're watching football. But how it plays out is going to be interesting.
And like you say, with Jose at the helm, anything could happen. Let's move from Real Madrid to Barcelona, and Barcelona in for Rodri. Looks like that's the one. Then I mean, it was talk of Real Madrid, wasn't there, as well? But Barcelona had a bid around £40 million rejected by City, who want nearer 60 million. Is that right? I
mean, 40 million was never ever going to get Rodri, even though he is
couldn't sign you for that.
29, 30 years old, and he less than a millionth of that you'll get me. They were never going to get him for that. Real Madrid looked like they were in a one-horse race at the start of this transfer window, and it looked like he would end up at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Since Barcelona have come in, we've had Terry Gibson, who's a friend of this podcast. He's been on Sky Sports News. His belief is that Real Madrid have actually pulled out now. So it looks like it might be a one-horse race for Barcelona. I say one-horse race, two-horse race, because Manchester City, even though he's into the final year of his contract, they don't need to sell him. But the feeling is that if Rodri asked to leave and said he wanted to go, provided the prices could be agreed between the two clubs, I think City would reluctantly allow him to go.
Yeah. Because
of the service he's given. He's been absolutely fantastic for Manchester City. What is interesting as well is, there was that narrative before the World Cup, wasn't there? Until Cucurella signed for Real Madrid, there wasn't a Real Madrid player in the Spanish squad. And they thought, right, there'll be two now because Real Madrid will sign Rodri. However, there are 8 Barcelona players in the Spanish squad. Rodri, playing with all of them, got used to them. And it might be the case that his preference could be to go to Barcelona. The interesting thing is as well, he came to Manchester City from Atletico Madrid. And there's always that, can you play for Atletico and Real Madrid? He did an interview earlier on this year, and he was asked that question on the basis of the fact that he'd played for Atletico before, however many years ago. And he says, you always want to be able to play for the best clubs in the world. So he hadn't ruled out Real Madrid.
Yeah. Maybe if there was
the direction of travel looks like
Barcelona.
It looks like it's Barca.
Which would make sense. Terry saying that Real's pulled out because they don't want to be seen to go head to head and lose out to Barca. Yeah. I was at the World Cup final. I stood there. I had fantastic. So I'm extremely fortunate and watched Rodri lift the trophy just with my very own eyes. It was a lifelong ambition achieved. I just think what an amazing month he's had to lift the World Cup and then sign for Barcelona potentially. I mean, you talk about living the dream. Like I say, Ballon d'Or winner. I still think even if it's 60 million, Tom, great signing.
It's a great signing for Barcelona. It's a great signing for all of Man City's rivals as well, because Man City without Rodri, as we've seen in the past, are a very different prospect, and it adds that pressure to Elliot Anderson as well, and how much of expectation on that £160 million deal. Of course, they're looking at also Ayyoub Bouaddi and bringing him in now rather than the delay of potentially bringing him in next season following going back on loan to France. So there's going to be huge expectation on a really young player. I know he was, I don't think he was in the Morocco squad for the African Cup of Nations and came in for the World Cup squad mainly. And that's huge pressure to replace Rodri at Manchester City. So that's going to be intriguing.
Especially as they say, never sign a player on the back of a good World Cup.
No, of course.
Talk about Bouaddi coming in 18 years old. He's going to have to... I mean, he looked good, though. I mean, we all said he looked good, didn't he? Chelsea, obviously lost Marc Cucurella again. He's back off to fulfill his dreams in Spain. Everyone wants to move to Spain, don't they? But Rayo Vallecano's Pep Chavarria coming in potentially. Dharmesh, what do we know about him?
Well, I mean, another interesting thing about him is he's 28.
Right.
So it's in keeping with this kind of new strategy that Chelsea are employing in this transfer window, whereby they're bringing in more experienced players. I know every single transfer talk podcast we've done in the past few summers, when Chelsea are signing all these young players with this young profile on 45-year contracts, we kept saying, didn't we? They need experience. They need, but we didn't expect them to go. Well, let's bring in Jordan Henderson, Danny Welbeck.
45-year contracts for 45-year-olds.
It was more this age bracket that Chavarria is in. 28 years
as
old.
Well, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know, it's fascinating, isn't it? And just like one final one, Spain, Ferran Torres, talking of the World Cup, could be close to joining Paris Saint-Germain from Barcelona, which may then have the knock-on effect with Julian Alvarez heading to Barcelona. Again, what an interesting sort of domino effect that would be.
Yeah, I still feel that the Julian Alvarez situation is so incredibly volatile, and that I don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel quite yet. I mean, there's suggestions this week that there's been quite heavy talks and even frustration from the Atletico hierarchy about Julian Alvarez's position and his camp's position on this too. I think that he's obviously desperate to go to Barcelona. Atleti are, if they are going to be more malleable to the idea of a sale, that it would be outside of Spain, and a club like Arsenal, of course, again, interested, but PSG as well in France too. But I mean, PSG, you're looking at, as we've mentioned, Uche, Mika Götze, Ferran Torres, maybe even an option there. I just think that Julian Alvarez to anywhere other than Spain is much more likely at this point, because they seem so stubborn, Atleti, to not sell.
You're thinking it's Arsenal. Yeah, it's that Jim Carrey gif, isn't it? As I say, you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, the interesting thing with Alvarez is his preference is to go to Barcelona. Atletico don't want to sell, number one, and they don't want to sell to a La Liga rival.
Yeah,
they'd rather sell if he is to go to, for example, PSG or Arsenal. But then the player's preference, if he doesn't want to go there, then what happens? Does he stay at Atleti despite making it clear, I don't want to be here and I want to go to one specific club? Because Atletico Madrid can just point to the release clauses, like $500 million, isn't it? Of course, they're not going to get that, but if they are to negotiate on that, they would rather have more than just a Barcelona in the mix, because you want to create some sort of bidding. I mean, every time I hear about Barcelona trying to sign players like this, I keep wondering, how the hell are they doing it? For the last 4 years, they keep, this thing that was new to me, they keep pulling levers. You can pull another lever and there's another signing you can bring in. Pull that lever and you can sign this player.
Yeah, Matthias Geisler, if you're listening, pull some levers at St James's Park, please. Okay, let's just rattle through any other business. Tom, start with you. Coventry, they're having a go, aren't they? I mean, we've seen only one of the three promoted clubs get relegated last season, and Coventry have been splashing the cash. They've got goalkeeper Carl Rushworth back to the club. He had a great season. Gone in midfielder Caleb Yarenki's come in for club record £26 million, and now they've agreed a deal to re-sign Gustavo Hamer as well. Will they have enough?
Well, we say this every year about a team that has done so well in the Championship beforehand, don't we? We've said it about Burnley with their record season under Vincent Kompany. We've seen it before. But, I mean, Sunderland last season.
Yeah, incredible.
Sorry to bring up Sunderland.
No, incredible,
but to go and qualify for Europe in their first season back in the Premier League was absolutely incredible. And it shows you the capacity is there. But the problem that these clubs have got is the team that finished 17th last season have gone and spent well over 250 million, Tottenham Hotspur. So that's another club that probably won't, we assume, be in the mix for relegation next season. And it makes that even more difficult. Clubs are in the middle part of the Premier League table looking so competitive, causing the top 6 sides so many problems. Clubs like Aston Villa, Brighton, Brentford push their way up the table. Sunderland, of course, as well. And so it will create this situation where I don't think it really matters how much the promoted clubs spend. The gap is so significant to the established Premier League clubs that the likelihood is that unless you have a situation with West Ham or Wolves, two established sides last season who just had such poor campaigns, really challenging to stay up, no matter what good business they do.
Doms, we talked about Bouaddi briefly there with Tom. That one happening to City?
I mean, it's difficult to say definitively whether it is going to happen. It's clear that Manchester City are in for him and they would like to sign him. And it just highlights the issue they've got with Rodri. Yeah. Because we always talk about long-term planning. I mean, this would be long-term planning. He's 18 years old, isn't he? Yeah. So if they can get the deal done, they'd love to. Big money, as Tom mentioned before, though.
Tom, Fulham have announced Shea Charles now from Southampton, £30 million. Good deal.
Well, Fulham, it's interesting when we're Fulham because we talk about those teams that have been kind of pushing up for European qualification, and Fulham looks like under Marco Silva they might be one of those clubs trying to do that, but have found it so difficult with the competition that's there. Bournemouth, another one we not mentioned, and so you've got Charles, you've got Garcia as well that they brought in from Real Madrid. They are looking at trying to bring in attacking might. We've seen players that have moved on from there as well, and the Mexican centre forward that they've got that has sadly, I'll talk about as a 31-year-old saying sadly reaching like the end of their career as a 31-year-old. It feels awful, but the reality is that now Fulham have got to rehash that front line and bring in goals. And Charles has been good at Southampton, and think it's difficult for Southampton next season, is it? Because they've got that tagline of what was going on with the drama. Yeah. You probably want to leave Southampton if you're a player there at the moment.
Yeah. There's a lot going on then for them to sort Southampton. A swap deal. I can't believe a swap deal happened. Yeah. Loved doing this on Football Manager. When you try and buy a player and they went no, and then you just you'd chuck in like Jack Colback and Paul Dummett as part of the deal, and you would get it over the line. No offense, Paul and Jack, if you're listening, two good friends of mine. But swap deals, we never see it, and we've seen it happen with Dwight McNeil and Brennan Johnson. One going to Crystal Palace, one going to Everton in the switch round.
So Palace were very, very close to signing Dwight McNeil in the January window. That's revisited now, and he's finally got that move. So it's clear that Crystal Palace did want the player, and I think it's probably a good move for Brennan Johnson, because Brennan Johnson moved to Crystal Palace, I think, for around £35 million or something. I had to double check this stat because I didn't believe it. He hasn't actually scored.
No,
for Crystal Palace.
26 games.
26 games without a goal. So maybe a fresh environment, a new start.
Good move for all parties.
One of those. Find it under that.
West Ham obviously got relegated last season. The favourites to win the title in the Championship, Tom, and they're having a go. Manor Solomon has come in. Jamie Vardy's on the list. Troy Parrott. They're clearly trying to add goals. They've lost Callum Wilson, of course. Jared Bowen still there. I mean, you don't see that very often, do you? It's still 3 weeks to go, of course, but West Ham doing everything they can to bounce straight back up.
Yeah, Reece Nelson as well, as we mentioned earlier, as Dharmesh reported, that are keen on a potential loan deal. It looks like these are players for a club that feel they've got enough probably already to go back to the Premier League, but without committing to a player that then will stay with them once they've got there, because they know that they'll need to invest in higher level talent. So you look at players like 39-year-old Jamie Vardy, you look at players like a Reece Nelson on a year deal, Troy Parrott potentially one more so for the future that could establish himself. But I think West Ham recognise that they've got quality to Jared Bowen staying, committing himself there to stay up. I think that they will probably go straight back up, but it's then how that squad building works in the summer of 2027. But if it then doesn't work, you're taking a gamble by signing those players on a short-term deal. Because if it doesn't work, then you leave yourself in a bit of a mire for the following season.
I mean, they're giving a boost. Nuno staying as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he was in charge of Wolves when they went up, like, by a streak.
Yeah.
Jared Bowen, huge staying. I think the other one, I know he's only been there for like 6 months, from the back end of last season, was Tati Castellanos. Every time I see him play, I think that is a good signing, and they've kept him. He scored twice, I think, in the Carabao Cup
Sorry, Carabao Cup. Yes, I'm in pre-season.
I know.
I don't support a club that's in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah. that early in the competition, you know who you're playing.
Yeah, I know. I've got the draw. West Brom at home. Get in, we'll take it. 2025 champions, by the way. Just putting it on.
Yeah. So West Ham keeping some of their big players. I know Somerville and Mateus Fernandes left. They probably expected one or two to leave, probably even more. The fans were probably worried, but to keep the majority of that squad together and be in the market to bring in some more quality players.
And big moves off the field as well.
Yeah.
Amanda and Murdad in there. Yeah. Wish them well. And it wouldn't have to be a Transfer Talk podcast unless we finally mentioned Marcus Rashford. Back at Manchester United under Michael Carrick. Is it going to work? I mean, fans aren't really happy about this one either. I was reading online. I always have a look at fan reaction. A lot of Manchester United fans say that
you just said the online fans and the stadium fans are different.
They are. That's right. Well, okay then. What reactions Marcus Rashford going to get if he runs out at Old Trafford opening game of the season?
I don't think. I think they'll back him.
Yeah.
I think they'll back him if he. Yeah,
he's got to start well, hasn't he?
Of course. I think it's more to do with the financial side of it is a big factor in this, because once Manchester United qualify for the Champions League, the squad got a pay rise. Marcus Rashford was already on like close to £300,000 a week, so you're adding a pay rise onto that for a player.
So he gets that as well.
Yeah, for a player that's been on loan in the last 2 seasons to Aston Villa and to Barcelona. I was pretty surprised that Barcelona didn't take up that option to buy him on a permanent basis. But you've also got to, because people just looked at the fact that they spent probably 3 times as much money on a transfer fee on Anthony Gordon than they would have had to have paid Manchester United for Marcus Rashford. But I don't think that was the issue. It would have come down to the wages because of all these financial rules that clubs have to adhere to. So
who's Marcus Rashford's agent?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh,
I think is it
family?
Family, I think.
Yeah.
That's not the name of the agency. I think it's his family. I think it's his family. So if he is going to come back and reintegrate himself, under someone like Michael Carrick, who he played alongside, maybe he can resurrect his Manchester United career.
Okay,
it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
If he could,
and also,
and for him as well.
But you also got to take into account that United last summer, by all accounts, the transfer business was pretty good, particularly in those forward areas. He's not going to walk straight back into the team, because you've got Sesko playing down the middle with Cunha and Mbeumo, Diallo there as well. They're probably going to deploy Patrick Dorgu as a left-sided forward as well. I know Arsenal fans.
He's ahead of Dorgu, though, is he?
Is he?
We don't know. No. We don't know what's going to happen. But what I'm saying is, whether he's ahead of Dorgu or not, I'm saying he's not automatically going to go straight into the team.
I'm going to put it out there.
One advantage for United, though, for getting Rashford back, is he can play along that front line, anywhere along that front line. So
he can play 9
with Sesko as well. Sesko has stop-start pre-season. He hasn't played at all so far because he's been carrying an injury. That's a factor as well for Manchester United to consider. Yeah.
All right, guys, brilliant. Listen, it's been fantastic. Tom, it's been great to see you.
Pleasure.
Next time I see you, I wonder who else you might have stolen from Newcastle. But it's been great to see you, mate. And Darms, as always, lovely to be back. And thanks for steering this wonderful ship.
Feel better in this seat.
While I've been away. You're good in this seat as well, mate. You are very good. I listen and I think it's in safe hands. But no, I know
by the pool, yeah.
Well, I know the viewers are delighted that I'm back in the main seat.
You did everything by the pool.
I do everything by the pool, mate. That's where the business is done. Guys, listen, big thanks to all the team for helping put this together, Harry and all the guys. And listen, John, I hope you're enjoying your holiday. I know you'll be listening by the pool somewhere as well. But big thanks most of all goes to you guys for listening and watching. So wherever you have been today, whether you've been in your car or on the train, maybe in the wind or out in the rain, quite sunny at the moment, isn't it? In your house or in your shed, on your couch or in your bed, in the hills or in the valleys, in the streets or in the alleys, out for a run or maybe on a little walk. Thanks for listening to Transfer Talk.
And that's for sure.